Hey everyone, it's Woo Wednesday.
Ric Flair!
It's Woo Wednesday, yeah, baby. Woo, 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 Wednesday, ha, woo.
Thank you, Nate. It's that time of day where we take a moment and pause and say thanks to everyone who's making the world run. Let's start with the men and women in the military, police officers, firefighters, doctors, nurses, lab technicians, hospital orderlies, small business owners, restaurateurs, truck drivers, everyone working at the grocery stores and fast food joints, the Port of Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Oakland, and Union Station, the pilots and flight attendants. Let's listen to the national anthem.
Giving you the day's headlines with the right context. It's the John Phillips Show.
And a very happy Wednesday to you at 12:07 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. The birthday boys across the glass.
Johnny, we're broadcasting live on the radio, 790 KABC and 810 KSFO in the Bay. We're also streaming. Johnny has the Katie Porter bobblehead. All right. You've made your point. It's very distracting. We're also broadcasting live on video at johnnydon'tlike.com. That's where you can go to the YouTube page and watch us. Hit the subscribe button so all of our content shows up on your homepage. Hit the bell so you get notified when we go live, and hit the like button because we asked you nicely.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, we now know who started the Eaton fire, and you can't blame this one on the bums.
Even though we knew this for a very, very, very long time, I guess it's good to know that it's official. LA County and CAL FIRE have determined that, yes, SoCal Edison and their faulty equipment were to blame for the Eaton fire that destroyed nearly 6,000 homes and killed 19 people. And apparently, there are possible criminal charges related to this. Now, that's not saying much, John. As we know, PG&E was convicted of killing people in the campfire, and they saw very little punishment for that conviction.
That's right. One of the local DAs in Northern California actually took the case to trial and won a conviction against that corporation. Nobody went to prison, but he wanted the world to know that this wasn't just some kind of accident, that this was something that was done by the company because they didn't want to spend the money to fix equipment that they knew that was dangerous.
And despite that, Gavin Newsom bailed out this company. And you remember that press conference early on in Gavin Newsom's governorship when Brandon Reddeman of ABC 10 asked him, "Why are you bailing out a convicted felon?" And he looked like he had a short circuit and his brain broke, and he tried to not answer the question whatsoever. But let's find out exactly what happened here with SoCal Edison, who, by the way, just paid a massive settlement to all the people's homes that they burned down in the Woolsey fire, and then got approval from the CPUC to pass on that cost to ratepayers. Let's see it all happen all over again. Here is NBC LA and their great investigative reporter, Eric Leonard.
On the Eaton fire disaster, investigators say they've concluded that electrical equipment in the hills above Altadena caused the Eaton fire. NBC4 Investigates was the first to show you more than a year ago.
Yeah, that video started coming out in like March of 2025.
Oh, yeah. No, we've had the money shot for a long time.
Video of the...
Once again, I'm going to do you a favor because I feel like I have your back. I'm not turning that into a drop either.
Fire spreading from below power lines above.
And now the official report confirms what many fire victims and their lawyers have long been saying for more than a year. NBC4 investigative reporter Eric Leonard joins us live now from our newsroom with more on today's findings. Eric, we're talking 18 months now to confirm the cause.
Yeah, that's right. And this comes from both the L.A. County...
You know, it made sense that he made the jump from radio to TV. He's way too good looking to be on radio.
Fire Department and Cal Fire, they work together to pinpoint what's called the origin and cause of the Eaton fire. And no surprise here, they say it ignited in the brush right below this Southern California Edison tower. For the attorneys who are representing thousands of Eaton fire victims who are suing Edison, they say this finding doesn't change much.
That report simply confirms what we all knew from pretty much day one. Our investigators at that time confirmed that it was most likely an SCE line that caused this fire.
The new official findings made public today.
And remember, Randy, when they first started lawyering up and they first started fingering Southern California Edison, you and I had the conversation. They wouldn't be doing this unless they felt that they had the smoking gun. And it looks like they have the smoking gun.
The attorneys knew early on because you're not going to file that many lawsuits when it's just a possibility. Let's not forget that going all the way back to, I believe, May of last year, in a regulatory filing, SoCal Edison themselves said, yeah, it was probably us.
Say that the sparks that ignited the brush on the night of January 7th, 2025, fell to the ground because of electrical arcing on one of 3 Southern California Edison towers on a hill above Altadena. The report says these arcing events ejected hot metal particles that fell to the receptive fuel beds consisting of dry vegetation below the towers.
And you know what? This is extra frustrating for any ratepayer of SoCal Edison or PG&E or SDG&E because they all do the same thing. How many times, whenever it's just a little windy, do they have a public safety power shutoff and shut off your power? And this is the one time where we're having historic winds, they don't do it?
Yeah, it seems like it doesn't matter which way you look at it. The result is they punish us. They shut off the power, they shut off the electricity out of an abundance of caution because they don't want the lines to go down and a fire to start. Okay, so we all have to sit in the dark. And then when they do start a fire and they do kill people and they do burn down homes and burn animals alive, they then have to pay out huge sums of money to the victims. But how do they raise the money to pay the victims? They raise your rates.
And because the CPUC is made up of appointees of Gavin Newsom that are mostly former executives from SoCal Edison and PG&E, they get a rubber stamp on everything, including last week when PG&E applied for a rate hike specifically just to pay off shareholders. And I do got to point out, there's a lot of warranted criticism at SoCal Edison and PG&E for the fires they cause. But we want to make sure, because I got a message in my DMs last week about this. We're not blaming the linemen. We're not blaming the trench diggers or the guys that work there. These are failures of management. So the guy who's just working on the power lines, he's not the villain here. The companies are, and the governor who allows this behavior is, and the legislature that is mostly bought and paid for by them as well.
And let's just be clear how this works. If you are Southern California Edison or PG&E, and your people come to you and they go, we have a lot of faulty equipment that we need to replace, and if we don't replace that equipment, it could potentially cause a fire and kill people and burn down homes and the like. What they do is they look at the number of what it would cost to fix the equipment, and they look at the number of what it would cost to pay out in lawsuits should a fire happen, and whichever number is lower is the one that they go with. They're just looking to save costs, to save money. What happens to the people who are impacted by the fires is not material to them.
Well, and there are specific things when you're going through one of these rate hike requests, there are specific things that you can use that money for. Like part of the rate approvals that PG&E and SoCal Edison get are specifically for wildfire mitigation, improving their infrastructure. And what did we find out a couple of years ago? PG&E was using money that was supposed to go towards wildfire prevention to pay for ad time on local TV to tell you what a great job PG&E is doing on preventing wildfires.
And go back to the fire that burned down Paradise, California. When those people were saying, okay, how are you going to make us whole? PG&E paid them in PG&E stock, not in cash. And believe me, if Newsom would let PG&E pay them in Confederate money, that's what they would have paid them with.
Resulted in ignition, causing the Eaton fire. Cell phone and security video recorded at that moment and first shared publicly by NBC4 Investigates more than a year ago showed the first flames of the Eaton fire spreading from below that tower. And what was just a theory before about how all of that happened is also confirmed in the report.
And this is, by the way, what they call a zombie tower, an old piece of infrastructure that they hadn't used in decades that they were supposed to remove and they didn't because, that would cost money.
It found an idle or unused line with no electricity that ended in the tower shown in this photo as Tower 3 that ran parallel to live lines, somehow became energized that night, causing the arcing. 19 people died as a result of the fire, and it destroyed more than 9,000 homes and businesses. Edison first flagged the idle line issue in filings with state regulators shortly after the fire. The suspect tower was removed and examined, and the new fire report says that inspection and lab work confirmed how it happened.
Took them 18 months to do this.
Boy, nothing happens fast here. Not counting the votes, not figuring out what's burning us alive.
Well, you could have done the shortcut route that Karen Bass did for the Palisades fire and just doctor up a report that says it's not her fault.
Edison also told regulators and investors last year it suspected its equipment was related to the cause of the fire.
We did receive the LA County Fire Department's report this morning, and we continue to review it. We have taken our potential role in the start of the fire seriously from the beginning.
These guys' glasses were just a little too big.
If you're Southern California Edison, there's no excuse to get rid of the zombie towers. You're leaving something up that belongs to you that has liability associated with it that you're not going to remove because you just don't want to incur the cost for removing it.
That's how these private energy monopolies have operated for years and years and years. How did the campfire start? Old equipment from PG&E that was rusted and broke when there was a little bit of wind that started that devastating fire that wiped out a whole town. It's the same story over and over and over again. They do not want to invest in their own infrastructure.
The LA County Fire Department told me it can't discuss any of these findings in more detail because there is a potential criminal case being evaluated by prosecutors and because of all of the ongoing lawsuits that also involve the county. I'm investigative reporter Eric Leonard, NBC4 News.
And that could be a local criminal charge. That could also be a federal criminal charge. We'll see what happens from that. But SoCal Edison potentially could be facing criminal charges for this. Not that that really means anything, because to use everybody's favorite word that means nothing, at the end of the day, SoCal Edison is not going to be held accountable.
I just don't understand why you wouldn't get rid of something that you have no use for. Just ask Bruce Jenner.
Now, Johnny, to add insult to injury, the California utility monopolies, whether we're talking about SoCal Edison or PG&E or San Diego Gas and Electric, they're on Capitol Hill. And they are looking to lobby in Sacramento to get new laws passed that would limit their liability when they start wildfires.
Because, of course, why not?
Because, of course, it's the lawyer's fault that they're getting sued. That's the same argument that Uber tried to make when every 8 seconds someone is getting sexually assaulted in the back of an Uber. For more, here is CBS LA.
A high-stakes battle is brewing in Sacramento tonight.
Yes, California's biggest utility companies, which are raking in billions of dollars in profits, want new laws to protect themselves after wildfires. And CBS LA political reporter Tom Wade is here to explain what could this mean, Tom?
Right, so there's a few different issues at play here, and we'll get into all of them because it is a bit much. So state lawmakers went back to work today. They have 1 month before their session ends, and there are reports that behind closed doors, they're discussing new laws that could protect electric companies from massive lawsuits.
Boy, that doesn't sound like a representative government that represents the people. That sounds like a representative government that represents their donors.
And if you're getting all ginned up about Southern California Edison and PG&E, don't, because they have a monopoly, and it's not like you can cancel your service and sign up with a different company.
After wildfires, fire victims, consumer watchdogs, and even the insurance companies are banding together to stop all of this. A showdown in Sacramento over wildfires and California's biggest for-profit electric companies. With just weeks to go until this year's legislative session ends, electric companies are spending a record amount on lobbying to get new laws passed that would limit their liability.
I wonder how much lower your rates could be for PG&E and SoCal Edison if they weren't spending millions of dollars every year on bribing politicians.
And just imagine if any other industry did this, if this was the tobacco industry or this was the gun industry that wanted a special carve out for liability, people would go nuts. But when utilities do it, it's like, why not?
In future fires, fire victims and consumer watchdog groups are sounding an alarm.
This year, all three utilities are doing just fine. They're making big profits. They have big rate hikes. They got a lot of money in the bank.
PG&E got 6 rate hikes last year. 6!
So they have to spend this money on lobbying to convince legislators they're in trouble, because they're not in trouble.
If you're going to protect
You know what
anyone,
PG&E stands for?
What's that?
Pillage, gouge, and exterminate.
Accurate.
protect us, Eaton fire survivors, not the perpetrators of catastrophic fires.
You don't have to lose your home to be hurt by wildfire.
The electric companies also launched this public campaign called Wildfire Victims First.
Okay, this might be the most insulting thing to all this, is that the electric companies have created a fake political action committee that's supposed to be helping wildfire victims, but really they're an advocacy group for PG&E and SoCal Edison.
Trying to convince the public that California needs...
Like, if you want any more evidence that politics in California is disgusting, here you go.
...new laws that limit how much attorneys can sue for after fires.
And the worst part is, in public, they're not even talking publicly to the media. They're talking through this group called Wildfire Victims First, which is funded 100% by the utilities.
A spokesperson for Wildfire Victims First in a statement said this about Consumer Watchdog. It should come as no surprise that they are trying to protect a system that prioritizes trial attorneys over wildfire victims.
Nathan Click, he's the spokesman for the Wildfire Victims First organization, correct?
That name rings a bell.
That is fully funded by the utilities, correct?
Yes.
Okay, he was a spokesman for Newsom.
Yep. It all goes together, and let's just remind you one last time. Gavin Newsom, when he was caught drinking $12,000 worth of wine and not wearing a mask at the French Laundry, was there to celebrate his buddy's birthday. His buddy is the lobbyist for PG&E.
When you see PG&E and you see Southern California Edison, just understand they're appendages of Gavin Newsom.
Fire survivors worry lawmakers and the governor are meeting behind closed doors to discuss protections for the utilities, but no one in Sacramento will confirm that on the record.
I have not been subject to a quote-unquote lobbying campaign.
Democratic Assemblyman John Harbedian represents Altadena. He says he's not aware of any pending legislation that would provide bailouts or any other new protection.
Well, they don't go for the guy that's in the district that has the fire that's affected. They know how he's going to vote, but Johnny, wasn't it Chad Mays that helped bail out PG&E, and he was in Southern California, nowhere near PG&E's rate area?
That's right. He was the Republican leader who did exactly the same thing that the current leader did, which is sell out the Republicans to do the bidding of the Democrats. Then he switched parties and authored legislation that would bail out PG&E, even though he represented Yucca Valley, which is in San Bernardino County, in the legislature, an area that PG&E did not service. And then he went to work for a firm that handled the lobbying for PG&E once he got out of the legislature.
So there you go. Here's what you need to know today. It's official. SoCal Edison started the Eaton fire, and SoCal Edison and PG&E are trying to lobby Sacramento politicians right now to limit their liability when they start fires.
It's the John Phillips Show.
No purchase necessary to enter or win. Sweepstakes open to U.S. residents only, except New York and Florida. 18 and older. Rent 11/126. Void where prohibited. For official rules, visit CarProSweeps.com. Sponsor Acuity Marketing, Inc. DBA CarPro.
Win a Corvette. That's right, a brand new 2026 Corvette Stingray. Right now is one of the absolute best times to get in at CarPro.com. Until this Sunday, August the 9th, qualifying entry packages get you up to 30 times the entries. That's 30 times. Imagine driving down Pacific Coast Highway, Ventura Boulevard, or Rodeo Drive in a brand new 2026 Corvette Stingray. Now, if you like to having the windows down, my advice is to stay far away from Boyle Heights, at least for the time being. Or you can take home $40,000 instead. Wouldn't that be nice? Either way, you win big. But listen, that 30 times multiplier ends this Sunday, so don't wait. Go to CarPro.com today, get your entries in, and give yourself a real shot. CarPro.com. Do it now. It's the John Phillips Show, 800-222-5222. If you want to watch us live, go to johnnydon'tlike.com. Much more coming up in moments.
You know, usually on my birthday, I'm spending it on vacation in Santa Fe, New Mexico. But because my wife's still out of town, we're going to push our New Mexico trip to later in the month. But I love spending my birthday in Santa Fe. In fact, my buddy just went to Santa Fe to celebrate his wife's birthday. Last year, we spent the morning at 10,000 Waves in one of the hot tubs, enjoying the hot pool, the cold pool, and the sauna. Got a nice massage, a lovely lunch at Izanami. And then we did dinner at my favorite restaurant in the whole world, The Shed. And we did it with my entire wife's family. And I got to sit next to my 3-year-old niece, and it was the best. Santa Fe is a place where you can make memories with the whole family or your loved one. There's so much good food. There's so much culture. There is so much great weather. There's no scenery like it. So check it out for yourself. Get the free visitor's guide at santafe.org, and there's a daily direct flight on American from LAX to the Santa Fe airport.
It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you want to watch us perform the show live, you can do that at johnnydon'tlike.com.
We've made it easier than ever because you just go to johnnydon'tlike.com and it takes you right to the YouTube channel. You can hit subscribe so our content goes right to your homepage. You can hit the bell so you're notified every single time we go live. And, of course, you can hit the like button and tell YouTube that this show is popular and they should push it out to more people. We've got tons of content on the website, johnnydon'tlike.com. We're live every single day from noon to 3, and we have tons of on-demand content as well, including the Accountability Podcast. And Johnny, we have a brand new episode dropping right after we get off the air at 3 o'clock. And it is our exclusive interview on video for 40 minutes with Steve Hilton.
And we're going to preview a portion of that podcast on the show later today.
It's a wide-ranging interview that does have a little hot goss about that dust up with Bianco. So you're going to want to watch that. You're going to want to share it with your friends. It'll be on the website at 3 o'clock today. So watch us till 3. And then at 3 o'clock or whenever after, go to johnnydon'tlike.com and watch our newest episode of the Accountability Podcast. You can help us make this episode the most popular one yet.
In the meantime, what do you say we make a couple listeners very happy?
Well, let's do that right now. 790 KABC welcomes Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin Evening at the Pacific Amphitheater on August 22nd. Tickets are on sale now at packamp.com. But right now, call in number 9 at 1-888-790-5222. Gets a pair of tickets to the show. You do not get tickets to the fair because the fair will be over by then. If you want to stuff your face full of fried Twinkies, go to the fair now. The tickets furnished by the Pacific Amphitheater. Good luck dialing.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. In Alameda County, they're kicking the minimum wage. And, Randy, I guess you could call that hazard pay, at least if you're in the city of Oakland.
So in Alameda County, there was a effort to collect signatures to put a $30 minimum wage on the November ballot. And they got the amount of signatures that they needed. And the Board of Supervisors had a meeting to decide what they were going to call the measure. And the Board of Supervisors voted to not put it on the November ballot, which has a lot of Alameda County people very, very, very pissed off.
Uh-oh. I bet you Luigi Mangione is particularly upset in his prison cell.
For more on this, here is NBC in the Bay.
Look at that large woman with pink hair at this meeting. You think the curtains match the carpet?
I had a feeling you would point that out.
They are yelling shame right now.
But why did she bring flowers?
I know a guy didn't give them to her.
Be nice.
At 11 o'clock, angry protests, a sharp reversal, and a controversial plan is in limbo. Tonight, the proposed $30 an hour minimum wage in Alameda County is on hold, meaning it won't be on the upcoming November ballot.
It is a no for now. That decision tonight, though, didn't happen without a loud debate. NBC Barry's Gia Vang is live in Alameda County to break it down. And Gia, a lot of people were paying attention to this one, a lot of back and forth.
Jess and Raj, they really were. So, well, no one.
These people are probably pissed. $30 an hour. When Barbara Lee was running for Senate, they wanted $50.
Well, think about what this would do to the restaurant industry. Think about what this would do to businesses that rely on people, a lot of labor, human labor, to get their product to their customers. It would absolutely kill them. We've seen this happen in West Hollywood. Didn't West Hollywood put together a minimum wage that was totally ridiculous, and it's driving all the restaurants out of the city?
If you're paying restaurant workers $30 an hour, probably shouldn't expect a tip. And by the way, there are some restaurants in San Francisco that do that. They're like, do not give us tips. We pay our people like $30, $40 an hour.
About a month which way the board goes on this. Tonight, though, supervisors say they wanted to slow down and try to figure out if there are any unintended consequences.
Shame on you!
There she is again.
Oh, yeah.
That was the reaction from a large group of the public inside the Alameda County Board of Supervisors meeting tonight in Oakland. They were briefly kicked out of the room, unhappy with the vote that just happened.
I do wonder how you can do this, though. If they collected the signatures and the signatures were verified, how can the Board of Supervisors then decide, oh, it's not going on the ballot?
Yeah, you see, the crowd that supports the minimum wage increase, they usually benefit from these sorts of things. It's not very often that these tricks that they pull to screw the voters over are screwing these voters over.
Supervisor Marquez?
No.
Supervisor Kim?
Yes.
Supervisor Miley?
Yes.
Supervisor Fortunato Ballas?
No.
President Halbert?
I vote yes.
In a 3-2 vote, the board is pumping the brakes on sending a proposal to the November ballot that would raise the minimum wage to $30 an hour.
Well, it's something that needed to be done. It goes without saying, because you can't make a rush to judgment on something that's going to have severe impact on many communities across the board.
The measure would nearly double Alameda County's minimum wage compared to California's state rate in unincorporated areas using a phased approach. Larger employers would reach that level by 2030.
Wait, so this would only affect unincorporated Alameda County? So if you're in between Oakland and San Leandro, then you have to pay this? That's a little confusing.
They're going to make this so confusing, even if you want to comply, you can't comply. Remember going back to the fast food minimum wage when Gavin raised that, and there were people that owned, I don't know if it was an ice cream shop or whatever.
Yeah, it was an ice cream shop, a Handel's ice cream shop that just wanted clarification as to, does this law apply to me? And 2 years later, nobody from Gavin Newsom's Fast Food Council has even gotten back to her.
Size businesses by 2035 and the smallest ones by 2037. Opponents say even with the time, many won't be able to hang on.
I urge you to move forward with the economic impact study.
That's what supervisors are now doing, saying they'll study the measure's potential impacts. But supporters of the proposal also showed up passionately today.
I'm a resident of Acorn Project, the most notorious place in Oakland right now. If we just had enough. If we just had enough.
Then she could move out.
So wait a minute. She lives in the most notorious project in Oakland, and she thinks that's not a nice place to live because the minimum wage is not high enough.
That is what she is saying.
You see, I think it's not a nice place to live because people like shooting at each other.
Well, there's also that. Who chose salmon as the color for the activist shirts?
Interesting choice.
Proponents are calling this a delay tactic since the county has already certified the group has collected enough signatures, about 117,000, to get it on a ballot.
Yeah, isn't this how our direct democracy system is supposed to work? It doesn't matter how weird the initiative is. If you get the signatures, people get to vote on it.
Let me ask you a question. Give me an honest answer here. Knowing the politics of Alameda County, if they put an initiative on the ballot that mandated a $100 an hour minimum wage, do you think it would pass?
Yes.
I do too.
The only thing they can do is delay it. And so we already won. It's going to be on the ballot. It's polling above 71%. It's going to pass. The only question is when.
So no history.
And by the way, this is a trend going up and down the state of trying to walk back these proposals. Let's not forget that in Los Angeles, the LA City Council went ahead with this proposal to increase the minimum wage for tourism workers to $30 an hour by 2028. And if you're wondering what is a tourism worker, it's not the guy who drives the TMZ bus in Hollywood. It's not the guy at Ripley's Believe It or Not. It's hotel workers, including restaurant workers at hotels, and people that work concessions at the airport. And there was so much negative outlook on how this was going to impact the hotel industry that places that were going to expand were going to move out of the city of Los Angeles, that now they have decided, okay, maybe instead of by 2028, maybe we'll do it by 2030. There's a whole big fight going on right now, and the fight for 30 people down there feel like they've been betrayed by the LA City Council.
Well, had they passed that, Tom Bodette would turn the light off for us.
And this is the funny thing about this. Even with a $30 an hour minimum wage, you can't get by on that.
No.
It's never enough. The cost of living is way higher than what they're even asking for. So they're going to have to go back again and raise it again. I mean, it was only 7 years ago where we were talking about fight for 15. I know there's been a lot of inflation, but that's double what the big ask for was just a few years ago.
Look at what Klaus just put in the chat.
All right, Klaus. I got to scroll up.
That pink is more Pepto-Bismol than salmon.
Look, there it is. Klaus Meister 0133. See, the thing is, there's so much going on in the chat. Sometimes I have a hard time following it while we're playing a news story, but we're glad everyone's having a good time in there.
Tonight with what would become the highest minimum wage in the country if passed, but voters will have to pick a side.
Barbara Lee wanted 50.
Is there a natural hair color in that room?
Who's wearing the bonnet? Also, is that a guy?
Soon enough.
The important thing to keep in mind here, though, this is unincorporated Alameda County. You look at the cities within the county, Oakland, Berkeley, they already have their own minimum wages. This would not override that, but this would be really impactful for workers who are working in the unincorporated parts of the county.
In Alameda County,
There are going to be so many people, if this passes, that think this applies to them, and then they find out that it doesn't apply to Fremont, it doesn't apply to Walnut Creek, it doesn't apply to Oakland, and they're going to bring the pitchforks to the Board of Supervisors.
Imagine if that woman with pink hair finds out it doesn't apply to her.
It was a guy wearing the bonnet.
You're right.
Wait, his neck was too big.
NBC Bay Area News.
So there you go. The fight for 30 continues in Alameda County. They collected enough signatures to get it on the ballot, but the Board of Supervisors knows that it would be an economic disaster, pushing all kinds of businesses outside of at least the unincorporated parts of the county, that they'd like to study it for a couple of years.
If it doesn't apply to that rotund woman with the pink hair, my guess is she's going to break every glass in her house. It's the John Phillips Show. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to watch us perform the show live, you can go ahead and do that at johnnydon'tlike.com. And when you're there, please be sure to click that like button. It's the big thumbs up. That does a lot for us if you click that button. Pushes us in front of eyeballs far and wide. All right. The high cost of living in the state of California may prevent you from getting the office you've always wanted, or the gym that you've always wanted, or the Christmas wrapping room you've always wanted, because your adult children are never moving out.
It has gotten so expensive to live in California that more and more young people are moving back in with mom and dad. They call it the Costanza effect. For more, here is CBS 8.
With housing and consumer prices sky high, millions of adults are moving back home. Jerika Duncan has more on the trend and
Get the guest room ready. Hope you didn't throw out any of my old sheets.
talks with one woman now living with her parents. 34-year-old Carly Goodrow appears to be in great shape physically, but financially, it's been a struggle.
This one is just super relatable.
The business coach and content creator.
She can't make a living doing that?
She should be able to do fine if she's a successful content creator. Either that or marry a Japanese businessman.
And documenting the ups and downs.
I am 34 years old. I just moved back in with my parents for a few months with my 2 golden retrievers.
So this is the room.
This is the room.
And then this is the workspace.
This is my office. It looks terrible right now.
Hey, at least she's got a standy desk. I have one of those.
When you think about what you imagined for your life at 34, was it this?
No, definitely not. What are you doing?
Before moving back home, Carly says she was living with her boyfriend in South Carolina on a $60,000 a year salary.
Something you can do in South Carolina.
That's right, not here.
But after they broke up, she couldn't afford to pay rent alone.
To be able to afford that on top of like your student loans, a car payment, it's really hard to function.
Jeeps ain't cheap.
No, it's all working out for her, but now her parents can't walk around in the nude.
Off of anything, I believe, like less than $85K.
According to Realtor.com,
I don't think you can do okay on $85K here.
I don't think so.
Especially San Diego. San Diego's expensive. By the way, the number 5 market that watches this show is San Diego, LA, San Francisco, San Jose, Sacramento, San Diego. You listening, Kogo?
a record 25.2 million adults under 35 were living with their parents in 2025. That's more than any point on record, including the COVID-19 pandemic peak.
Think about that. There are more adult children living at home now than during the lockdown.
Society as a whole has to respond.
Wharton School of Business professor Susan Wachter has been studying this trend.
It's affordability across the board. It's not just price of the home and the mortgage.
You ready to show me?
Carly's parents say they welcome the full house.
Well, that's what they say.
Yeah, if they're irritated with her being back at home, they're not going to say that to the news.
You're excited to have the house guest for definitely the first week, maybe the second week. Then everything they do gets real old real fast.
Well, if those two go on the news and say that their daughter's a freeloader and getting on their last nerves, they're going to have to sleep in shifts.
For adults, 4 dogs crossing paths once again.
So there you go. More and more adult children are moving back home because, well, it's real expensive to make a living as a single person nowadays.
You want a prediction?
Yes.
She's going to end up with that Japanese businessman.
You know, the fact that she moved in with mommy and daddy tells you that she doesn't want to end up with the Japanese businessman. She is definitely attractive enough to attract any kind of sugar daddy. Steve Klubeck's single right now. She could go after him, but she's trying to do it the right way.
Well, how long do you give it before they have a falling out? because you can't have that many adults living under the same roof without a whole lot of fighting going on. Didn't you watch The Golden Girls?
That is a good point.
They're going to be at each other's throats almost immediately. People need space. If I don't have my space, if people are staying over, house guests, for too long, I'm crawling the walls. Because house guests are like fish. After 3 days, they start to stink. They stick around longer than that. And let me tell you, you're at each other's throats. And if they're your adult children and you're used to telling them what to do, they're going to hate you too.
It's not going to end well for anybody in this family, is it?
No. If you have adult children moving back in with mom and dad, it's going to end in a 911 call for many of them.
Maybe someone watching CBS 8 or someone watching this broadcast right now will see her story, be like, I want her to be my, whatever she is, influencer coach. And maybe she'll get enough business to move out on her own. Probably not in San Diego, but she'll have to go up to 15 to Riverside.
Oh, yeah. No, some guy is watching this thinking, I got plenty of room for her at my house.
So there you go, everybody. It looks like more and more people are starting to move back in with their parents. That is not a good trend for the economy, but that's where we are right now.
All right. If you want to watch us perform the show live, go to johnnydon'tlike.com. That's johnnydon'tlike.com. Hit that like button. That really helps us out. Coming up next, we've got the Fix California Hour. Susan Dyer Reynolds from The Voice of San Francisco will be here. We're also going to play my segment on Good Day LA this morning. That's coming up. And we're going to give you a little sneak peek of our interview with Steve Hilton, which we did for this week's Accountability Podcast. All of that and much, much more coming up right here on The John Phillips Show.
Something's not right here.
Crime is up all over the state.
The homelessness in the city is out of control.
The economy is sick. Taxes are high.
Housing is expensive and businesses are leaving.
California needs fixing. And John Phillips is just the man to lead the charge. It's the Fix California Hour with John Phillips and Randy Wang.
And we continue at 1:05 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. The birthday boy is across the glass.
Johnny, we're broadcasting live on the radio on 790 KABC in Southern California, 810 KSFO in the Bay Area, and every single day. We also broadcast live on video. You can watch us around the world at JohnnyDon'tLike.com. That's JohnnyDon'tLike.com. It takes you right to the YouTube channel. You can subscribe, and then all of our content goes right to your homepage. You can hit the bell so you get notified when we go live, and you can hit that like button because you like us. Come on, it's my birthday. Hit the like button.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. She is the editorial director and CEO of The Voice of San Francisco. You can read her online at thevoicesf.org and follow her on X at the VOSF. Susan Dyer Reynolds, welcome.
Hello.
Well, thank you.
Happy birthday, Randy.
Hey, thanks, Susan.
All right. Now, you have been reporting extensively on all the chaos going on in Oakland, whether it be related to the former Mayor Sheng Tao, California Waste Solutions, the Dong family. And one name that seems to escape a lot of the coverage, although if you read between the lines, he's there in just about all of it, and that is the Attorney General, Rob Bonta, who was the former assemblyman from Oakland, who used California Waste Solutions as his chief benefactors throughout his political career, at least when he was a politician in Oakland. But you look at the big papers in the state. You look at the LA Times. You look at the Sacramento Bee. You look at the San Francisco Chronicle. And none of them have been able to connect the dots and say, now, wait a minute. This is a scandal that doesn't just involve a lot of local figures in Oakland. This goes all the way to Sacramento, to the Attorney General's office. Why do you think that hasn't happened yet?
Oh, well, it did in the Chronicle, ironically, and I wrote about it at the time. So about two years ago, July 4th, 2024, I wrote a piece called The Bonta Money Trail. And in that, I connected all the dots. And I even connected the dots to the Music Cafe, which was Andy Duong's karaoke bar, where it was busted for drugs, prostitution, human trafficking, underage girls being trafficked. And I connected the dots because the person who was Duong's straw donor donated a lot of money to not just Bonta, but his wife, Mia, who took his place in the assembly when he went to become Attorney General. About a year later, the Chronicle came out with a story that plagiarized my story almost word to word, and it was insane. I've never been plagiarized so completely I've been plagiarized before, but I've never been plagiarized so completely by a mainstream newspaper. Other people noticed it. That's how I found out. They said, oh, look, they took your story. So that was the only thing they ever did. It, by the way, took them 4 reporters to plagiarize me. But the 4 reporters that were listed on the article, they just took what I had and maybe added a couple of details here and there, a couple of quotes. And then that's the last thing they've said about it. And you're right, nobody else has written about it other than me. I keep writing about Bonta because I feel he's the biggest crook in the bunch of them, to be honest. I mean, Sheng Tao isn't the brightest bulb in the box, and so it was no surprise to me when that happened. You can just get a feel for who she is when you see her speak. I think she was in it for the money all along, had no business being. But Rob Bonta has no business being attorney general. And the reason he didn't run for governor is I definitely believe he knows there's a problem. And so I think he's running for his old seat simply because he thinks if he doesn't, that'll look even weirder.
So let's go back to when this whole thing started in terms of being on the radar of the federal government. The whistleblower letter that came out from Mario Juarez included a paragraph about Rob Bonta saying that California Waste Solutions, Andy Dong specifically, had compromising videos and photos of Rob Bonta, the implication being that the compromat could be used to blackmail him into manipulating his behavior, I guess either as assemblyman or attorney general or whatever position he happens to be in at any given time. The report that came out in the San Jose Mercury News recently authenticated those photos and those videos, not necessarily of Bonta specifically, but of quote-unquote politicians. And he had a number of them involving a number of politicians. Well, that seems to me that there's confirmation that what was in the initial whistleblower letter has been authenticated, because if he has photos and videos of politicians, and this whole thing started because of a whistleblower saying he has photos and videos of Rob Bonta that is blackmail material, I think we know what's happening here.
Well, combining that with the fact that after all of this started to come to light, Bonta took almost $500,000 out of his campaign fund for legal defense because of the corruption case. So he says, well, of course I have to protect myself. I knew these people. Well, you more than knew them. You were heavily involved with them. His wife, Mia, when she was running for assembly, shared an office with Juarez. And they regularly socialized with the Duongs, as we know from all the photos. They're not alone, of course. He has pictures with, Javier Becerra, who's running for governor. He has pictures with current governor Gavin Newsom. But there were an awful lot of very personal photos of him with the Bontas. They didn't look like a one-off selfie. They looked like, he called him his brother. So I think I do think it probably confirms it. Who else would he be? I know there's a lot, but who else would he be talking about? It's like that there was a confirmation letter, in my opinion. And if he's not in there, I find it strange also that, neither Bonta is listed on the witness list. Clearly, they were very tied to the Duong. So that's interesting, because sometimes that's a sign, just like with Rebecca Kaplan not being listed, sometimes that's a sign that there's more to come in the indictments. When I broke the story about Mohammed Nuru, the DPW head that ended up going down in San Francisco, he had a girlfriend who I had brought to light in an article, and she did not appear on the witness list. And the reason is because they were going after her separately.
Go back to Bonta here for a second, because the way I see it, covering California politics for as long as I have, if there is a video of him getting a dirty massage, if there is a video of him with a prostitute, if there are pictures of him in compromising situations with people other than his wife, I think it would be an embarrassing story. I don't think it would be a career ender. Because if it's consenting adults, or even if it's a sex worker who wasn't underage or wasn't sex trafficked or those sorts of things, I think he could survive that. To my eye, the more damaging aspect of this story for Rob Bonta is, assuming that he was blackmailed, what did he give them? What did he do with his power in his office that benefited Andy or anyone with California Waste Solutions that came as a result of the compromat? That, I think, is something that not only could kill his political career, but could put him in prison. Is that how you're seeing it too?
Yeah, so I think it goes much deeper than some dirty pictures. There's reasons why Duong seems to feel certain politicians need to have blackmail material. There is also, of course, Veritas fuels the entire mess that became. They were, they went to, well, Andy, we know Andy Duong was with California Waste Management Services, and then he had the whole thing with Veritas Fuels, which was run by Kathy Neal, who is Elihu Harris's former wife, and Elihu is the former mayor of Oakland. She was on the port. They both contributed to, the campaign for Bonta. And then he gave, he went to the Energy Commission and got that big loan for them. So along with taking donations, he's also gotten them money from taxpayers to do their dirty fuel business, which, as we know, was a complete scam. And all the while, the address for that was the same as Mia Bonta's office address.
You mentioned that the compromat may be something more severe than just pictures of a dirty massage. Have you been briefed on what this compromat might be?
No, I mean, I keep digging, but I do think that there is a lot behind Bonta that isn't just the Duans. I think that he's one of the dirtiest politicians that the East Bay has ever seen. He's owned by the Eatons. He will take money from anybody, even though he's complaining and saying, I'm going to sue Trump and do this and that. He's taking, he took almost $6 million from unions and banks and healthcare companies, tech giants, all the people he claims he's going to, sue and take care of and make sure that the taxpayers are protected from. He's there then taking their money. So I think it goes beyond the Duongs. I think that he's been dirty, and I think his wife is as well. I mean, and she wants to do this, prevent journalists from going and investigating because she's afraid of being investigated. And I've, never let up on them, and I never will, because I think there's a lot more. And I just wrote a story, in fact, it just came out last week, that really drills down on all of this and the connection to people like Kathy Neal and Elihu Harris. And I'm about to do a timeline where you're going to see who all those people are and how they got involved and how dirty it all has been.
And Elihu Harris, the former mayor of Oakland, was so bad and so corrupt as mayor of Oakland, he lost an assembly race to a woman in the Green Party, which I can't think of the last time one of these minor parties has been able to outright win an assembly seat. But Audie Bach found a way to do that when she was running against Elihu Harris. It happened.
Well, and he also, appointed his wife at the time, Kathy Neal, to the port and was fined for that. And this is who Veritas Fuels chooses as their, number one advisor. So clearly Bonta knew all of this when he went and got them, millions of dollars from the Energy Commission. So there's so many ties to this giant wheel of corruption that has been around, as you know, Peralta College and all of that. There's been the Elihu Harris thing and Kathy Neal. They've all been involved and just sort of very, and Willie Brown, too, frankly, was involved in all of it. So you look and you say, well, these people have just never gotten caught. That's the only thing. They just have never been caught.
You said that Mia Bonta is just as corrupt as her husband. She was also eyeing higher office this time around. She was thinking about running for state superintendent of public instruction, and she never pulled the trigger on that. Did she do that for the same reason that her old man didn't do it for governor? Well,
I think that she knows the eyes are on him, and that means the eyes are on her. I definitely think he's, more corrupt simply because he's had more opportunity to be corrupt. But she's taken her fair share of money from the Duongs, and she's been snapped in many photographs in limos and looking very friendly. Again, not like a one-off selfie. Some of the politician photographs look like he just caught them at the right moment and they smiled and took a picture. These are pictures where they've clearly been out and about together, Warriors games, the trip to the Philippines. I don't see any way Bonta can deny there was a close relationship there, and that's why he's getting legal help, because he's afraid this is all going to come out. And, we've only seen a little snap of what the prosecutors have. This is just because the defendants wanted some things removed from evidence, and they, released what it was they wanted removed. There's a lot more.
Sheng Tao is not someone who I would regard as an honest person, but one of the things that she has said quite consistently, and I believe the government has backed her up on this, was that she was not the target of this investigation. And she has said that over and over and over again. Her attorney has made that claim. And
yes.
And if she is not the target of this investigation, that means someone else is. And I can't look at this any other way than to say it has to be Rob Bonta.
Because Sheng Tao is all potatoes. She's already called. The Duongs they're big. They took a lot of taxpayer money and they had grown very powerful. So I can see why they need to come down off their pedestal. But it certainly wasn't Juarez. He's cooperating, right, and has become their star witness in some ways. So it's not Juarez. They certainly went through Juarez to get to Sheng Tao, the Duongs, and now they're probably going to try to go through them to get to Bonta, who to me would be the biggest prize for them to take down. It's rarely when they go after the small fries are they really after the small fries. They're hoping they'll turn. A good example is Dwayne Jones, who in San Francisco, Shamon Walton, supervisor with his mentor. It's been 2-3 years since my stories were mentioned in his indictment, and he still hasn't gone to trial. That's because they're trying to get him to talk, and they've got bigger fish to fry. And I think, for example, Shamon Walton is probably one of them they're looking at. He's got a lot of issues, but they always start somewhere, and then they hope that you'll talk. And I have no doubt that Sheng Tao will sing like a bird if she thinks that it's going to get her out of prison.
There was an alleged assassination attempt on the whistleblower, Mario Juarez, who said that he believed that someone put a hit out on him and tried to kill him so he would not be able to cooperate with the government. Do we believe him? And if so, who did that?
Yeah, I looked into the incident and actually had a couple of DMs back and forth with him early on in this investigation. And yes, I believe him because the police were called and there was a shootout. He also shot back. It wasn't just them, but he was also beaten up outside of the Duong's office space after a heated meeting there. I have no doubt that the Duongs would like to silence him. I wouldn't personally want to be him, just because now he's out there as the guy that kind of blew this whole thing up. But yes, I do believe him. And just having spoken to him in DMs and, just the basic premise of how it occurred when I read the police report, it was definitely a shootout. Be after him.
Last question before you go. When Rob Bonta became Attorney General, he did not run and beat an incumbent. He did not run for an open seat. He was appointed by California Governor Gavin Newsom. No governor appoints someone for a high office like that, a statewide constitutional office like Attorney General, without a vetting process. I would imagine that if you did a legitimate vetting of Rob Bonta, that a lot of this would come up. What happened there? How did that go sideways? How did Newsom not become aware of it, or was he?
I think Newsom was aware of it. How could he not, being in the Bay Area politics? The stories about Rob Bonta were well known. I think, Gavin Newsom's part of the city family, and it all goes back to Willie Brown. I think that there's a connection between these people. They all keep each other's secrets. And the reason he would want someone who, in my opinion, Rob Bonta was never qualified to be Attorney General and still isn't, is because he's a yes man, for one thing, and probably has some secrets on him and vice versa because, Gavin Newsom isn't clean either. So, they all keep each other's secrets. And, that's why San Francisco and Oakland have been politically compromised for decades.
Susan Dyer Reynolds, the editorial director and CEO of the Voice of San Francisco, a one-woman wrecking crew, doing the work that the San Francisco Chronicle, LA Times, and Sacramento Bee won't or refuse to do. You can read her online at thevoicesf.org and follow her on X at @TheVOSF. Susan Dyer Reynolds, excellent work, and thank you so much for stopping by.
Oh, always. Thank you for having me.
It's the John Phillips Show.
No purchase necessary to enter or win. Sweepstakes open to U.S. residents only, except New York and Florida. 18 and older. Rent 11/126. Void where prohibited. For official rules, visit CarProSweeps.com. Sponsor Acuity Marketing, Inc. DBA CarPro.
Win a Corvette. That's right, a brand new 2026 Corvette Stingray. Right now is one of the absolute best times to get it at CarPro.com. Until this Sunday, August the 9th, qualifying entry packages get you up to 30 times the entries. That's 30 times. Imagine driving down PCH, Ventura Boulevard, or Rodeo Drive in a brand new 2026 Corvette Stingray. You might get mistaken for a Laker. Or you can take home $40,000 in cash instead. And then you might be mistaken for a Clipper. Either way, you win big. But listen, that 30 times multiplier ends this Sunday, so don't wait. Go to CarPro.com today, get your entries in, and give yourself a real shot. That's CarPro.com. Do it now. It's the John Phillips Show. If you want to watch us perform the show live, go to johnnydon'tlike.com. The Fix California Hour continues in moments.
If you get hurt in any kind of accident, there's been one guy I've been recommending for over 8 years. Clark Fielding and the Jaws of Justice at Fielding Law at 833-88-SHARK, 833-887-4275, 833-88-SHARK. Even a minor accident can lead to a major long-term injury, so don't go at this alone. Get the Jaws of Justice on your side helping you out with your case. That's Clark Fielding at Fielding Law, 833-88-SHARK, 833-887-4275. Clark Fielding has got 5-star reviews on Yelp and Google. This is the guy you want in your corner helping you out with your case, so find out if you have one. Get a free consultation from Clark Fielding and the Jaws of Justice at Fielding Law at 833-88-SHARK, 833-887-4275, 833-88-SHARK, and go to the website, clarkthesharklaw.com. That's clarkthesharklaw.com.
Hurt in an accident? Bite back. Call Clark. 833-88-SHARK, clarkthesharklaw.com.
It's the John and Philip Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you want to watch us perform the show live, you can do that at johnnydon'tlike.com.
We've made it so easy. Whether you're on a phone or on a browser, go to johnnydon'tlike.com. Even if you're at work, keep it on in the background. And anytime that you need a little break from life, we're right there for you. If you're driving, it's probably not a good idea. Although what I do when I listen to podcasts in the car is I have it on YouTube, and then I have the phone face down in the console where it's charging. So I'm still listening. But, you know, if I get home, then all of a sudden I'm watching it. Takes us to the YouTube channel. Just go to johnnydon'tlike.com. If you have not subscribed, please do so. You'll get first in line to all of our content. It's free. You just click the button. Also free, hitting that like button, telling YouTube that you like this show. There's tons of on-demand content on the channel as well, including at 3 o'clock today, we'll be premiering our newest episode of the Accountability Podcast, a 40-minute exclusive video interview with candidate for governor Steve Hilton. That is on the channel today at 3 o'clock. Do not miss it.
And we're going to preview that interview, the 2 o'clock hour, as well. We'll play you a portion of our interview with Steve Hilton. And if you want to watch the interview in its entirety, you're going to have to go to the Accountability Podcast for that. All right. Earlier this morning, I was invited to be a guest on Good Day LA, where we talked about a number of the subjects that we talk about on this program all the time. And we took time out to promote the Accountability Podcast as well. If you want to watch Good Day LA, you can do so weekday mornings on Fox 11 KTTV in Southern California. Let's go ahead and watch the interview that took place earlier this morning.
All right. Friend of the show, podcast host, radio host, John Phillips is here.
Yeah, he hosts What Else But the John Phillips Show weekdays on AM 790 KABC. How nice would it be to have your own show with your name attached to it, Bob?
Well, we have our own show.
It'd be like the Bob DeCastro Show.
Someday.
Don't steal my shine.
Someday.
Lots to talk to you about. Lots going on in the world of politics. So can we start with the mayor's race?
Sure.
And this Boyle Heights mess. What do you think that's going to do to the way this mayor's race plays out? What kind of impact do you think it's going to have?
Well, it's causing massive problems for Karen Bass. I mean, she just went down there and spoke in front of a community forum and got cursed out in both English and Spanish. And what I don't understand is why she's not blaming the county. Because it's the county that's in charge of the public health department. It's Barbara Ferrer who is the one who came out after this fire was burning for something like a week.
Right.
And told these people it was safe to breathe in the smoke. Well, that neighborhood smelled like Lucille Ball's lungs. Everyone knows it's not safe to breathe in the smoke. And these people were told, yeah, it's perfectly fine. Take a deep breath.
But then also we saw neighbors getting nosebleeds and reporting, that the air smelled terrible. And what can this do for their lungs? Yeah, you don't know. So to come out and say ahead of time that this is fine, that's a big problem. That's a big liability.
Well, and their lungs are filled with fluids, they're bleeding from their nose, they have rashes on their bodies, and they're going to these county public health clinics, again, run by the county, and they're being given Tylenol and told to go home. So I don't understand why Bass isn't laying all the blame at the county, because the county's the one that's supposed to be handling this.
We've been trying to get responses, too, from the counties, the public health department, and they have been pretty elusive for the media as well.
I mean, given what she knew, what happened with the fires and all the criticism that she got for her handling of the fires, and she's tried to take control of the situation here. She had said that there's an emergency crisis here. She's given deadlines for Lineage to clean this stuff up and get it out of there. 2 days after school starts, by the way, but still, she's tried to take control of this situation. But who knows, if this is a protracted thing, then this could really be a lingering issue.
Yeah, she's certainly trying to lay all the blame at Lineage's feet. But I don't understand why the people who ran the solar panels aren't the ones taking the blame, because the fire started on the roof with the solar panels, and the cold storage just happened to be underneath it. The cold storage company is the one that's being blamed, and somehow the people that operate the solar panels are getting a pass. I don't know why she's blaming them, the cold storage company, and not the county and the people who operate the solar panels, because it seems like it was their fault.
That's a good point. We don't even know the name of the company that tried to install those solar panels. So in the meantime, we're like less than 90 days, like 3 months until the election.
Yeah.
Now you're wondering, this starts to get really, really, exciting here, because we've got Nithya Raman, right? We're watching as things are playing out across the country here. Just this morning, we heard in Michigan, you have this progressive candidate now beating out the more moderate Democratic candidate to run for the states there.
We saw what happened in New York as well.
We saw what happened with New York.
Zohar Mamdani.
Yeah. And
So what are you thinking in terms of Democrats? They're clearly having this internal identity crisis, right? But you're starting to see state to state, especially state like Michigan is a good bellwether for maybe a bigger discussion in terms of what's happening with Democrats.
Yeah, and you look at what happened yesterday, where I think one of the building unions, the trade unions, came out in favor of Raman that endorsed Bass the last time around. Things in politics tend to happen in waves, where you look back at like the 1980s and you had Reagan and Thatcher, who saw the world the same way, who got elected around the same time. And then in the 90s, you had these center-left, Bill Clinton, Tony Blair types.
Right.
And then you had the populists in the 2000s with Trump and Brexit and those things. And now you're seeing this wave of DSA candidates who are doing well in places like New York and Colorado, and even in some primaries here in California. And look at all the big cities that have elected socialist mayors, where it's New York, it's Chicago, it's Seattle, and it could be Los Angeles. Karen Bass is looking like an incumbent on the ropes right now. And if I had to lay money down, I would say she loses.
Interesting. All right, we'll see how that plays out. Let's turn to the governor's race now. So there was a big press conference. We're going to go back to Boyle Heights there, and Steve Hilton had a press conference there. He's really trying to tap into the Latino vote there, saying, "Hey, you've been with the Democratic Party for your entire lives, and look where it's gotten you. Not really very far. You know, we're really the party for you." Does he have a shot in this and try to chip away at any of that base?
Well, I think it was a good idea for him to launch his campaign there because Gavin Newsom, governor of California, has time to travel all around the country campaigning on behalf of other people. He hasn't been to Boyle Heights. Javier Becerra, who represented that area in both the California Assembly and the Congress, has not been to Boyle Heights. This is a one-party state right now where the government has failed those people. So if you're Steve Hilton and you're presenting yourself as the outsider, as the person who is not part of the group that has run the state this way, I think it highlights a lot of the failures right now that we're seeing at the state level, the county level, the city level.
Yeah, and so he's stepping in and being almost a voice for the people, and you know, taking this as an opportunity to speak to the voters.
Yeah.
Where maybe other candidates have not yet.
That's right.
I mean, the polls, though, are show that Becerra is so far ahead. It almost would seem so difficult to close that gap.
Yeah, and it looks like he's going to employ the Joe Biden strategy and just go in the basement and not campaign aggressively, not campaign actively. I know that Hilton challenged him to, I think, 6 different debates, and so far Becerra has not said yes to any of them.
Is it because he doesn't feel like he has to? He already has the support?
Yeah, I think he's going to put it on autopilot and just expect the registration numbers, which are to his advantage, to be enough to carry him over the top. That's what Adam Schiff did after Steve Garvey was the one that ended up going on the November ballot with him. It's something that Gavin Newsom did with Brian Dahle and John Cox. That seems to be the playbook.
I wanted to get your thoughts on this new presidential survey. I think we might have a full screen of that. These numbers are kind of surprising. So you're talking about a number of progressive Democratic candidates who seem to be polling better than, for example, Governor Newsom or Kamala Harris. You have Pete Buttigieg leading the pack there at 24%. Jon Ossoff, who's kind of come to the forefront as a main character in this race, and then AOC at 10%.
Is this surprising to you?
Yeah, what do you make of these numbers?
Well, if Chick Hearn were around, he'd say for Newsom, the mustard's off the hot dog. Because for a long time, he was polling in the top spot. I mean, he was the guy. He looked like he was going to be the Democratic nominee. He presented himself as the chief foil to Donald Trump. And Democratic voters hate Donald Trump with the hot, hot hate of 1,000 suns. So that made him a popular figure in the party. But look at what's been going on with Newsom lately. He has acknowledged that the feds are now investigating what's going on with his wife's business dealings. He's fighting with state employees over whether or not they have to go back into the office because he doesn't want images of empty city centers in California. He is fighting with the SEIU over the wealth confiscation tax. He's got a lot of trouble brewing at home right now, and he is not being seen as the #1 foil to Donald Trump anymore. He's seen as the governor who's got a lot of problems back at home, and that's not a good look.
But so did President Trump before he got elected. So you're talking about somebody who is the factor that helps a candidate win. They're speaking to the electorate. They're talking directly to the electorate. They're of the electorate. And there might be some sense that traditional mainstream Democrats aren't doing that lately.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something else. Newsom risks looking like someone who's not relevant by focusing so much on Donald Trump. Because Trump's the president now. But in 2028, he's not going to be running, if he's the Democratic nominee, against Donald Trump. He's going to run against Marco Rubio or J.D. Vance or someone else.
And you look at all these other people like a Jon Ossoff, who's really kind of like flying under the radar, right? He's like not even really out there saying much. We got to go really quickly. Your podcast, you got a new podcast, right?
That's right, the Accountability Podcast. And I'm on Monday through Friday on KABC in L.A., and KSFO in San Francisco.
There you go.
Excellent. John Phillips, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back.
Well, look at that.
So there you have it. Had fun this morning over at Good Day LA.
For a second, when they asked you for a graphic to put on the screen, I thought, oh, I should do a silly AI image for that. But I think we played it safe and let's just promote the show.
For once, we use good judgment. It's the John Phillips Show. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you want to watch us perform the show live, go to johnnydon'tlike.com and click that like button while you're there. All right. We know that there was a lot of chaos that went on all over the state of California on the 4th of July. We had illegal fireworks. We had illegal fireworks aimed at homes. We had illegal fireworks aimed at people. We had all kinds of violations going on in Northern California, in Southern California, and all points in between. And Randy, you have some new numbers about just exactly what went on that 4th of July.
Orange County did a pretty big crackdown, especially in places like Anaheim, because if you're going to do fireworks in Anaheim, your name needs to be Walt Disney. And they levied all kinds of fines, including multiples of fines for every single firework done. This has worked very well in Sacramento and actually saw a major reduction the year after. Let's see how it worked out in Orange County. Here is CBS LA.
Property owners in the city of Orange facing staggering fines tonight after 4th of July violations. CBS LA's Michelle Gili with the numbers and reaction from residents.
Illegal fireworks go off in the sky. A hovering police drone homes in on an address in Orange.
And despite what Johnny thought, they weren't shooting the drone down.
I thought that was going to happen right and left.
The offenders are caught red-handed. Officials say this video from the...
Although not literally hand exploded red-handed, but that did happen to a bunch of people.
4th of July on East Berkeley Avenue will be used as evidence against the homeowner. Her fine, tens of thousands of dollars.
Good.
Imagine having a lien put out on your house because your idiot children launched illegal fireworks on the 4th of July.
This fine in itself is $3,000 per party. And then for the first firework that you discharge illegally, that's $2,000. The second one is $4,000. And the third one is $6,000.
Is he wearing a yarmulke or did he have a bandage on his head?
I think he went to my dermatologist.
It's $6,000 for everyone shot off after that. The fee schedule was approved by the Orange City Council as part of the new social host ordinance. The total fireworks violation fines amounted to $240,000.
That's just in the city of Orange.
And I love the fact that they were too stupid to shoot down the drones. I thought it was going to look like Israel's Iron Dome.
Well, if you shoot down the drones, that's probably a much bigger offense because they are police drones.
8 administrative citations were issued. The top 3 fines given to homeowners or tenants: $111,000 at one property, $69,000 at another, and $21,000 in fines for another offender.
If you're the guy that has to drop off that bill, how badly do you want to say, was it worth it?
Well, do you think it's the actual homeowner that's doing it? Or do you think it's grandma who has a bunch of idiot grandkids living with her and they decided to do it at Esther's house?
I think that's possible. And yes, there are plenty of homeowners that do it on their own property. I should know. I live in a single-family neighborhood in the Valley, and it's a freaking war zone every 4th of July.
I think it is excessive. I also think it's not going to work. Because it's 4th of July, and it's going to happen.
But Orange Mayor Dan Slater hopes just the opposite will happen next July 4th, that the fines will be a deterrent.
The biggest disappointment, of course, is that we only had 2 drones and one of them malfunctioned. So we did this operation with only 1 drone.
Boy, they could have got double the amount of fines.
Did it malfunction or was it shot down?
That is a very good question.
I was hopeful that next year we'll have several in operation.
That's what they're going to use all the money for? This is going to be the self-fulfilling prophecy. They got $250,000 in fines. Where's that money going towards? Make burn centers? No. We're going to use that money to buy a whole bunch of more drones so that next year we can collect $2 million in fines.
Maybe instead of the drones, they'll just buy all of the parked planes that our favorite airline that just shut down used.
The homeowner facing the $69,000 fine told me she doesn't know the people who were lighting the illegal fireworks behind me here in the church parking lot next to her home. She also said when the crowd ran into her backyard when police showed up, she didn't know those people either. She plans to appeal her fine. In Orange, Michelle Gili, CBS LA.
There you go.
Now, wait a minute. They got the wrong woman?
Well, that's what she's saying. I would imagine your first line of defense here is, well, I didn't know those people. I don't know what they were doing in my backyard. And maybe she's right. But maybe that's just the excuse that she's going to use. Because you have a lot of people, this is true in Sacramento too, where the first thing they say is, I didn't know who those people were. I didn't tell them to shoot off them fireworks.
Well, little old ladies don't shoot off fireworks.
They're no good kids do. So there you go. The city of Orange, $250,000 in fines levied for illegal fireworks on the 4th of July, and all that was collected with one drone. Just one.
Okay. If every city in California had the drones where they could keep an eye on who was shooting what, which city do you think would generate the most revenue?
If they actually had a means to enforce it and they had an army of thousands of drones, the city of Los Angeles could solve their budget deficits in one night. One night, and it would be all. We could fund the police department. We could fund the schools. We could fund everything just on one day of what goes on pretty much the whole summer in the San Fernando Valley.
What about Oakland? They could make enough money to buy the Coliseum back.
That is also very possible.
And we still got our Oakland A's, baby.
No, you don't.
I mean, if the Roots are evicted, they could bring a new team in. They could bring in the dye jobs. I don't know.
Don't shoot off illegal fireworks, kids.
We've got one more hour coming up on the John Phillips Show. Coming up next, we're going to check in with Minnesota State Rep Max Reimer. Also, we're going to preview a portion of the newest edition of the Accountability Podcast, which drops today at 3 o'clock. That was our long, extended interview with candidate for governor Steve Hilton. So make sure you stick around. It's the John Phillips Show.
speaking up in all caps. For those that don the red caps, it's the John Phillips Show.
And we continue at 2:05 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. The birthday boy is across the glass.
Johnny, we're broadcasting live on the radio on 790 KABC in Southern California and 810 KSFO in the Bay Area. And we're also broadcasting live on video every single day from noon to 3 at johnnydon'tlike.com. We've made it so easy to find the video version of this show. Just go to johnnydon'tlike.com. Takes you right to the YouTube channel. We'd appreciate it, especially because it's my birthday, if you would subscribe, like, share it with your friends. Tell everyone you know what you're watching every day from noon to 3. Tell them how unproductive you are because you're watching this show for 3 hours a day. But we'd love for you to subscribe to the show, hit the like button, and stay tuned. We sign off at 3, but that's when the premiere of the new episode of the Accountability Podcast airs, our exclusive interview with Steve Hilton.
800-222-5222 is a telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is a member of the Minnesota State Legislature. You can find him online at maxreimer.com and follow him on X at maxreimer. Max Reimer, welcome.
Hey, John, thanks for having me. Good to be back.
Well, thanks so much for stopping by. So there was a big election last night in your neighboring state, the state of Michigan, or the way I see it, the DSA had a clean sweep where Abdul Al-Sayed won the Democratic nomination for U.S. Senate over Haley Stevens, a man who has said that the United States deserved 9/11. You had Rashida Tlaib, who is a proud member of the DSA. She won her primary for re-election. And then you had a Democrat, Sheree Theander, who is just a standard rank-and-file Democrat with very interesting eyebrows and hair.
Yeah.
And he went down to a DSA candidate. What do you make of the fact that in a swing state that voted for Donald Trump 2 out of 3 times, the state of Michigan, the DSA is on the ascendancy, and just the standard partisan Democrats just took a good swift kick to the crotch?
Isn't it interesting? And I think you're going to see the same thing happen in this upcoming week. So we have a primary election here for both governor and U.S. Senate in Minnesota. On the Democrat side, you have more of your stock Democrat candidate in Angie Craig. And then you have our lieutenant governor, who's probably the most radical politician we have in the state, except for Ilhan Omar, who is the DSA candidate. And I think this is a harbinger for what's going to happen here in Minnesota and actually what's going to happen in our neighboring state in Wisconsin. You do see this ascendancy of DSA candidates, but you got to keep in mind the Democrats gave these candidates and these people really no outlet in their party. They haven't picked their own candidate for a long, long time. They tried to keep them at bay. They tried to basically play the hits, say the right thing. And what's become very apparent is that that is not enough anymore. And just one note on Sri Thanadar, I'm bummed that he lost because every now and again he would come up on my social media feeds and I would just get a big kick out of, how is this guy in Congress?
The Midwest is known for having a very polite sort of culture. In Minnesota, they call it Minnesota nice. And people, they go to the Midwest, they get treated very well. People are very impressed with the manners, the yes, ma'am, no, sir, that sort of thing. How do you think it's going to play in Michigan where you have a candidate that goes, planes land on runways every day. It's not every day that they fly into buildings. And, 9/11 was something I think was a pretty good thing. How is that going to fly in the nice Midwest?
Yeah, what we call it in Minnesota, like you said before, is Minnesota nice, and what it really means is Minnesota or Midwestern passive aggressive. We're not always going to tell you the truth to your face, but when we're in the privacy of a voting booth, then we're going to let our frustration out a little bit. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think the country is ready for it. I think socialism is still a deeply unpopular concept. It just so happens that one party doesn't talk to working people anymore about what they actually want. And they think that Democrats, the prescription here is that the DSA candidates, by abolishing the Senate and praising 9/11 and Medicare for all, and we don't need a presidency anymore. That's not what when I talk to working class voters in Minnesota, that's not even remotely what they're looking for. They're just looking at like a fair shake. So I don't think that it's going to invigorate this underground socialist base of America. I don't think there's enough people in the country who believe that. And I think, thank God, frankly, that El Said is the candidate, because we're facing some headwinds on the national stage as the Republican Party. But to have these radical candidates be the answer, whether it's Minnesota or Michigan or Wisconsin, I think this is a godsend for us, John.
Do you think it's possible, given the fact that standard rank and file Democrats seem to do well in statewide elections in those states, where Amy Klobuchar wins every time she comes up in Minnesota? You look at Michigan, Debbie Stabenow stringed together a bunch of different wins when she was in the United States Senate and the House before that. Could you see a scenario where the Republican candidates win the U.S. Senate seats in Minnesota and Michigan because the Democrats just push too far with these ideologically extreme candidates?
Yeah, well, I think in Michigan, you have a state that Trump has carried twice now. This is basically a down the middle state. And when you have just your average stock Republican whose name is Mike Rogers, okay? Like this is Joe America versus Saddam Hussein's cousin, if you've ever seen that meme before. And I just don't think it's going to play well in Michigan. And then in Minnesota, if this Peggy Flanagan is their nominee, this is a candidate who adopts every left-wing position. She's famous for wearing a shirt that says "Protect Trans Kids" with a knife on it, like a knife stabbing someone on it. And if she is the nominee for the Democrat Party, we're going to have a real puncher's chance, I think, in Minnesota, because most Minnesotans, they want to think of themselves as compassionate, generally center-left. But to nominate a candidate like that, I think, is a bridge too far.
In California, the public employee unions are very, very, very powerful. The SEIU is arguably the most powerful entity in the state, maybe even more powerful than the teachers union, which maybe 2-3 years ago I would have told you is insane to think about, but I think it might be true now. And the institutions, the unions and the environmental groups and all of those groups seem to have tight control over statewide primaries here, where you get those standard Democrats. Javier Becerra is the Democratic nominee for governor. Before that, it was Adam Schiff for U.S. Senate. They aren't DSA candidates. They're very partisan Democrats, and that's who the parties tend to like. It seems like your state parties in the Middle West and elsewhere, because it happened in Colorado and it happened in New York too, they're losing control of their own primaries. They're losing control of their own voters. How much panic is setting in within those institutions, the Democratic Party, the state parties, and the unions, that they might not be the shot callers anymore?
I can guarantee you that's a real phenomena in Minnesota for two reasons. So the longtime chair of the Democrat Party in Minnesota, the DFL, we call them, the Democrat Farmer Labor Party. They've been that for 50 years. The chair of that party moved on to be the head of the DNC, Ken Martin. So you lost this continuity in leadership, this track record of success in leadership with him moving to the national stage. And then, because you're right, in Minnesota, it's very similar to California, where you do have the unions try to bolster the most electable Democrat candidate. What's transpiring among the Democrat base in Minnesota is they have now gone 2 election cycles in a row where they did not get any say in who their candidate was. The first being, they didn't get to pick Kamala Harris here in Minnesota. I'm not sure Kamala Harris would have won a primary contest in Minnesota. And 2, because Tim Walz, our governor, the former VP candidate, was so mired in controversy, he basically stepped down and said, I'm not running for re-election, Well, then Amy Klobuchar got inserted into that. She became the de facto candidate for the Democrats. No one's going to challenge Amy Klobuchar. So you have this frustration among the Democrat base leaking out now in this upcoming Senate primary, where I think Peggy Flanagan, the more radical of these two candidates, is going to win. And I don't think it's going to be particularly close in Minnesota. I think she's going to win by 5, 6, 7 points.
Well, it seems like they're losing control of their own primaries on a variety of levels because first you have what the pitchforks and torches are doing. And clearly right now there's a level of anger within their own electorate that is scaring them. But you also have people like, let's say, Chuck Schumer, where if I'm Chuck Schumer and I'm trying to keep these seats in Minnesota and Michigan without having to worry too much about it, you go to the incumbent senators and you go, you're not retiring right now. I don't have enough bandwidth to defend an open seat in your state right now. You're going for one more term, whether you like it or not. Or you go, in the case of Michigan, let's just say that Gary Peters is really done with politics and doesn't want to serve anymore. Okay, then you go to Gretchen Whitmer, the governor, who's won many statewide elections in that state, and you go, okay, I don't have the bandwidth to defend an open seat with a bunch of lunatics running.
Yeah.
You're going to run. And they didn't have that power. And so they ended up with these chaotic primaries where they're losing control.
Absolutely. And in Minnesota, I think what they thought was that if Amy Klobuchar wants to step in and do the governor thing, that's fine. Minnesota's usually a safe seat. We'll insert this moderate congresswoman, Angie Craig, into that seat. We'll fund her to the gills. We'll make sure that it's not a competitive primary. Well, that's not happening. And the polling favorite right now next Tuesday in Minnesota is Michelle Tafoya. Okay, we have a couple of other candidates. We have our endorsed candidate, Adam Schwarzy. But right now, the polling favorite is Michelle Tafoya, the former NFL sideline reporter, who's very moderate on a number of issues on things like abortion and some statements where she's opposed Trump. And if it is Michelle Tafoya against Peggy Flanagan in our general election, John, the Democrat National Group, that Senate group, is going to have to spend money in a general election in Minnesota. And I don't know when the last time they had to do that was. Maybe Norm Coleman or something like that, because it's been 25 years since outside money on the Democrat side has needed to try to defend a seat in Minnesota. And it's shaping up like they're going to have to. They got egg all over their face right now.
Let's go back to that Michigan Senate race for a second, because I think there were a lot of dynamics in that race that kind of give us an idea as to how some of these future primaries are going to play out, and maybe even the general election. Haley Stevens, who was the Democratic Party's choice, did very well with black voters, and she did very well with blue-collar whites, people without college degrees. And you look at Abdul, he did extremely well with white people with college degrees.
Yeah.
And the more educated you were, I guess the dumber your vote was, because the more educated you were, the more likely you were to vote for him. And it seems like whites with college degrees, specifically left-wing whites with college degrees, have lost their freaking minds. And it's taking place in primary after primary after primary. That's a group that's been radicalized. It's been radicalized in the way that they vote. It's been radical. Look at Luigi Mangione. He fits that category.
They are the ones celebrating him. Yes.
Who killed Charlie Kirk. Oh, you name it. That crazy demographic seems to be hitting all the erogenous zones right now. What the hell is going on with whites with graduate degrees and their insane political views right now?
Isn't it insane? I saw a chart. I saw somebody post a chart the other day of also comparing college education versus how you vote. Well, the affluent, I won't even say affluent, the people with bachelor's and master's degrees who also couldn't parlay those degrees into legitimate careers, they go into full-time activism, whether they know it or not. Their career or something adjacent to their career requires them to be political activists. And one thing you saw in Michigan that I found fascinating was that race was way closer than polling would lead you to believe. In some polls, Abdul was 15, 20 points ahead. And I think this is actually impacting the polling industry because these affluent, white, liberal, especially women, are more responsive, it seems, to polling. They are excited to get a polling call. So what I'm seeing the discourse is like, we actually have to adjust because we have this one demographic who's not only like politically engaged, but wants to answer a poll. I think it's the best case scenario for Republicans that it was as close as it was, because I think you're going to have a lot of people on the fringes, a lot of people who could swing either way, who are probably working class Michiganders that say we're not going to vote for the socialist here. But it is an interesting phenomena. It's people who are not earning enough money but have advanced degrees, went to an indoctrination factory, and they've made this their full-time mission. It's their religion, John.
I also think there's a sense of entitlement because many of these people probably grew up in upper middle class homes where their parents had a nice house, their parents had a couple of cars, they had a pool, they had a yard, they went on nice vacations, they were educated at elite institutions. And they have these useless degrees that they've collected that they cannot parlay into a living that gives them a lifestyle they believe that they're entitled to. And because they're not living as good as their parents, they hate the boomers. They blame the boomers for them not being able to buy a home because the boomers bought their home 50 years ago for 85 cents and an onion, and now they can't get in, to a house in the city that they live in, certainly not any big city in the United States. And they're working these jobs that they think are beneath them, and they just don't see a bright future. So why not have the government provide me with the health care I want? Why not have the government provide me with a basic income? Why not have the government provide me with wiping out my student debt? The government should be the one that becomes my sugar daddy.
Yep. And we saw that with Mom Domney's housing director. When he first got elected, it was uncovered that this young woman basically was a trust fund baby, grew up on a ranch, parents had multiple homes. This is the same lady who then went out and said that the private ownership of housing needs to be abolished. She was like that extreme on it. The real tragedy with these people is, to your point, their background means that the policies they advocate for that actually impact people who are trying to work their way up the ladder, they have no consequence to that. There's always a fallback for this demographic of people, and they're making decisions for people in poverty, people who are trying to work two jobs and work their way up. They're going to make life more unaffordable for the very same people that they claim that they're helping, because they don't have the real problems that actual people who are working class or in poverty have.
Last question before you go. What's your prediction in the Democratic primary in your home state of Minnesota? Is the left-wing candidate going to win or the standard Democrat going to win?
No, I think Peggy Flanagan, the DSA candidate in Minnesota, is going to win. I think she is going to win by, like I said before, 5 to 7%. I do not think it will be as close as Michigan is. And then really the odds-on matchup is Michelle Tafoya versus Peggy Flanagan. And I like our chances if that's the case.
Max Reimer, member of the Minnesota legislature. You can get him online at maxreimer.com and follow him on X at Max Reimer. Max Reimer, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks, John.
It's the John Phillips Show.
Well, it's my birthday, and I'm home alone this birthday. My wife didn't come back from Canada for another week, so I'll be cooking by myself. But I'm excited because I'm going to be making myself a steak on the Solaire infrared grill. I went to Lazy Acres over the weekend and got a First Light Farms Wagyu flat iron and one that is the level 6 of marbling. And I'm going to pull it out of the fridge at 6, season it with hitching post seasoning that I get from the Santa Ynez Valley. And I'm going to throw that thing on my Solaire, and it is going to come out perfect because the Solaire helps me have the most consistent cooks every single time I fire up that grill. It heats up to 1,000 degrees in just 3 minutes, so I'm not sitting there waiting for a half hour before the grill's even up to temp. It makes grilling something you can do even on a school night. Check it out for yourself. See if the Solaire makes sense for you. I love mine at besthotgrill.com/Randy. That's besthotgrill.com/Randy.
It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you can also watch us perform the show live at johnnydon'tlike.com.
That's the website, johnnydon'tlike.com. We've made it very simple to find our YouTube channel where we've got the live show every single day from noon to 3. All kinds of on-demand content, best segments from the show. Like if you haven't seen our crime blotter from the Vallejo street takeovers this week, you got to go watch that on the channel later on tonight. And of course, this is where we also host the Accountability Podcast, our weekly exclusive show, which premieres today at 3 o'clock. And today it's a very special one. It is a 40-minute, no-holds-barred interview with Steve Hilton on video. It comes on at 3 o'clock right after we sign off the air at johnnydon'tlike.com. Make sure you watch it, like it, share it. You got any voters that you know in the state of California that don't know anything about Steve Hilton? Well, here's a great explainer. Send them the video. We want to make this one the most popular accountability podcast yet.
And coming up next, we're going to preview that interview by playing you a portion of it. Don't you go anywhere. It's the John Phillips Show. You know, when people think about serious injuries, they usually think of broken bones, something obvious. But one of the most serious injuries people deal with after an accident is actually vision loss. After a car crash or a head injury, your eyesight can change, sometimes right away. Sometimes it takes weeks or months later. Blurry vision, double vision, headaches, trouble focusing, and a lot of times the eyes look fine, but the brain isn't processing what it's seeing correctly. That kind of injury impacts everything. Your work, your driving, your independence. And if someone else's negligence caused it, that's not just an inconvenience, it's a real long-term issue. That's why I trust and recommend Fielding Law. They don't just look at what's obvious. They understand brain and vision injuries and how deeply they impact your life. If you or someone you care about is dealing with vision problems after an accident, call Fielding Law at 833-88-SHARK or find them online at clarkthesharklaw.com. That's clarkthesharklaw.com. Fielding Law. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222.
We're not writing messages to each other during the breaks about Katie Porter. She was an analyst with Alex Michelson last night on CNN for the election.
I saw that.
Took a break from the book reviews.
Interesting.
Where's the little bobblehead doll?
See, I'm on a panel with her right now. What do you think, Katie?
I call it the shift gift.
That's what I thought.
I'm pulling in to the bakery.
If you want to watch us perform the show live, you can do that at johnnydon'tlike.com.
And if you're working or you're driving, all of this stuff is up on demand. So check it out when you get home. johnnydon'tlike.com.
Let's go to John in Long Beach. John, hello.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Randy. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you, John.
Miss you guys. Hope you come back to Gladstone soon. Just wanted to wish you all the best. Hope you enjoy your day.
Well,
Go ahead.
We haven't announced it yet, John, but I believe we're heading back to Gladstone sometime in October.
Indeed, indeed. We're looking forward to seeing you.
Now, earlier this year, around my birthday, we were at Gladstone's in Long Beach, enjoying so many of your great dishes, including the fish with the Parmesan crust, which happens to be my favorite.
The halibut.
And you were kind enough to bring out a birthday cake for us that included my face on it. And at the very end, I was presented with a piece of cake that had my face on it. And I thought, I would never see the day where I would eat my face without being on bath salts first. But I did that day.
Oh, God. Oh, congratulations on your success on the new webcast, simulcast, and on the podcast. I'm looking forward to listening to your interview with Steve Hilton this afternoon. And we're really excited for your success. We're close to opening in San Diego. We're hoping that you'll come down and join us for a Mai Tai down there. And just wanted to say peace out and go Dodgers and go Angels.
All right. John Segmeister, owner of Gladstone's in Long Beach. Thank you so much.
Save the date. Early October. We'll tell you when we get closer, but we're heading back down there. We're also heading back to Pineapple Hill in early September. We'll have a lot of announcements later this month about some live events, and we are actively trying to figure out doing a remote in Oakland at the end of October for the Shanghai trial. So that might actually happen. We'll see.
And when we hit 5,000 subscribers, you and I are going to the Tijuana River.
If you want to see John and I do a podcast episode on video from the Tijuana River, I'm not getting in the water, but we'll smell it right there. Tell all of your friends to subscribe to our channel at johnnydon'tlike.com. We're at over 4,000 now. Let me check the latest numbers. We're at 4,067. When we get to 5,000, it's all over, and we're going to the Tijuana River. So if you want to see that happen, you can help us by spreading the word about this little show.
What are you going to do if Art gets us a kayak?
I don't think our insurance will cover it.
Would you be the captain or the skipper?
I can row pretty well. I don't know how rough those waters are going to be. I also don't know if the water's so toxic that the kayak will disintegrate by the time it gets to the water.
It is the most polluted waterway in all of North America, after all. So we have that to look forward to. All right. We mentioned before that the Accountability Podcast, the newest edition of the Accountability Podcast, drops today at 3. And it's an exclusive extended interview with Steve Hilton, candidate for governor. And we told you that we would preview that interview by playing you a portion of it today. So, Randy, let's go ahead and listen to it.
This airs on this channel at 3 o'clock. So make sure you tune in. But here's a little amuse-bouche.
A new poll that came out that showed you ahead of your Democratic opponent, Javier Becerra, in Orange County, which, of course, is a population center in Southern California. The fall campaign just started. You just made your big launch over in Boyle Heights outside of Ground Zero, where the environmental and public health disaster took place on Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass's watch. How do you feel about the election right now as we sit here in the doldrums of summer, staring at a calendar where fall is quickly approaching?
Well, I'm feeling very excited about what's to come. Look, we all know the reality here. I've been aware of it. We've talked about it many times. It's 20 years since a Republican won in California. The gap's been up till now an unbridgeable 20% gap, basically. Whoever's been running, that's been the outcome in all statewide races, and that's what that first poll, the PPIC poll, basically showed. It was which was the other week. It was before the campaign started, before our campaign started, 61-36, and that was really, in a way, just adding up the totals that we saw in the primary. If you add myself, I got 25% in the primary. Chad Bianca got about 10%. That's 35. If you add up the Democrats, it comes to 65. The poll was 61-36. So it really just reflects where we were in the primary before the campaign. The Orange County poll is significant because, as you said, it's a large population center, third biggest county in the state, over 3 million people, and has been moving in a purple to blue direction, honestly. And so that's encouraging that I'm just edging him. But we haven't really started. And there's two components to what we're doing. The launch of the positive campaign for change in Boyle Heights. Enough is enough. Let's fix California. That's the message. We were speaking also to the millions of Californians who understand that we need change, who are desperate for change from the insanity of the living expenses that are just off the charts, the housing costs, gas prices, electric bills, all of those things, chaos on the streets with crime and homelessness, the school results, etc. All of that, desperate for change. But also, you got millions of people who want the change, but who can't stand President Trump. We know that in California. That's not a secret. And so there's a very important part of the message for me, which is to say, look, I get it. You may not like President Trump. You may not even be a Republican, but you know that we need change. And I'm your guy for that. And then the second part of the campaign is to show people who Becerra really is, my opponent. He's not particularly well known, honestly, in California. And once you dig into his support, it's very soft, which is our pathway to victory. When you look at the strength of support for each of us in a poll that we did, I've got 33% solidly for me. He's got 41%. And there's 26% who are really up for grabs and persuadable. And that's who we're aiming for. And we've got to also tell them that Becerra is not just a 36-year career politician who would be absolutely no change for anything. In fact, in many ways worse than what we've got now. He's also completely disqualified in terms of his past experience. Notably, as we've been focusing on in the last week, as HHS Secretary for Biden, he presided over an absolutely appalling scandal, the migrant kids scandal, where he was responsible for losing 319,000 children and sending many thousands of children into the clutches of child sex traffickers and slave labor. And he did that directly in order to try and protect his political reputation, because he didn't want the images of kids in his camps. This guy's disqualified, I think, on that basis. So there's a lot more to come out on that and on the other things that make Becerra not fit to be governor. So in a way, I'm feeling like we know what we've got in our locker, and I'm very excited about the weeks and months ahead. It's going to be difficult, but I know that we can win this.
When people talk about your campaign, they always reference the fact that it's a long shot. But I always tell them, I always caution them and say, look, there are states that are bluer than California in the United States that have Republican governors. Larry Hogan did it in Maryland. The state of Vermont, which has a socialist, Bernie Sanders, representing that state in the United States Senate, has a Republican governor right now that's one of the most popular governors in the entire country. There have been other Republican governors in the Northeast, places like Maine and Massachusetts and elsewhere in recent cycles. there is a way to crack the code. There is a way to do it. Have you spoken to those individuals, to those Republican governors in blue states about their secret sauce?
Yeah, a little bit. And in fact, I was at the Republican Governors Association meeting just the other week, and we had a few of those conversations, not with everyone that you mentioned, but some others who've been in that situation as well. It's an incredibly important point, and the answer is very simple, and I'm looking forward to more of those conversations. The answer is what I've been doing actually in the campaign. You'll see it written behind me. These are the messages we're on the road with, which is to be incredibly practical, positive and practical, not ideological, not divisive, not even particularly partisan. And so you've seen it from the beginning, right back to last year. My campaign has been very simple. $3 gas, cut utility bills in half, your first 150 grand tax-free, starter homes for young families, etc. And these are things that have large majority support in California. I'm not, and I haven't weighed in on the issues that are more divisive, that you would consider more ideological. I'm just going to focus on what we can do to help people, in particular, the people who, like, if I go back to that pathway to victory and the 26% who are up for grabs and we can persuade, and who those people are, the vast majority are working class Californians, regular working people, not college degrees, who are just really sick of the struggle of just surviving in California, particularly economically. And that's why our focus is very much on those practical cost of living things and the changes we can make to make life easier, in particular for working people and small businesses. That's why we launched the campaign in Boyle Heights, because it's a heavily working class Latino neighborhood that just typifies the way in which Democrats have let down that group in their years in power.
So that's just a little taste of our 40-minute extended interview. Covers a whole lot of topics, including what the hell is going on with Chad Bianco. And we do also get into the origins of the scrub-a-dub-dub.
Scrub it.
I feel like you and I are the little old ladies at Costco handing out the samples of the pizza pockets. Here's a sample. You like the sample? If you like the sample, get the whole thing.
We're trying to make this the biggest episode of the Accountability Podcast ever. It premieres as soon as we sign off the air at 3 o'clock at johnnydon'tlike.com. So check it out.
And share it with your friends. It's the John Phillips Show. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to watch us live, go to johnnydon'tlike.com. And when you're watching us, make sure to hit that like button. It's the big thumbs up. We really like it when you do that. All right. In our latest installment of You Can Smell It Right Here, here's Mr. Randy Wang for the introduction.
Well, we're going to need a prop for this one. Johnny, are you ready?
Hang on. Hang on.
You can smell it right here.
I am afraid of the bobbleheads that are going to get sent to this radio station. Now, the LA County Board of Supervisors and the LA City Council says after 2 months of this disaster, we're starting to work on some relief for these people. Let's find out what this is about. Here is Fox 11.
City and county leaders try to bring more relief to Boyle Heights residents and businesses frustrated by the slow cleanup process nearly 7 weeks after the Lineage Warehouse fire. Some still facing foul odors and financial losses. Fox 11's Rachel Aragon live now in Boyle Heights with what's being done. Rachel?
Wait a minute. How did Seedorf get out of this?
Well, you don't know this story, do you? So
What?
Seedorf was off last week. He was doing an Ironman triathlon in Canada, and he was about to fly back to Los Angeles from Calgary when WestJet decided they wanted to have a flight attendant strike, and he could not get home. He had to rent a car and go all the way to Bozeman, Montana to get on a flight to get to Los Angeles, and he just got back yesterday. Poor guy. And he did all that with his wife and a baby and all the equipment that you carry with you when you're doing a triathlon.
Sounds like a tough trip.
Yep.
Yeah, Glenn, more relief could be on the way for residents and businesses in this very neighborhood. But some people we spoke to and heard from today say they should not have to wait nearly 2 months for their life to return back to normal.
Or to get the county to pay attention to them.
There's less people. People don't really go out. We have to wear a mask.
Parents in Boyle Heights continue
It's like COVID.
to fight the impact of the toxic fire that sparked at the cold storage facility in June. Many trying to find fresh air for the little ones to play.
They don't really come out because of the smell. We were going to
These poor people. It's almost 2 months of this.
Well, you can smell it right here.
another park because of the smell.
Residents did not cause this disaster, but were forced to suffer its consequences.
And you've done nothing about it, Isabel.
On Tuesday, Councilmember Isabel Gerardo announcing a series of motions aimed to provide immediate relief from odors and pests.
Aimed to provide immediate relief, meaning that it's going to go through the council committee process, and in about 6 months, they'll have relief for the residents of Boyle Heights.
It's not immediate. These people have been dealing with this for a long time already.
Accelerate the cleanup process.
I'm also calling for a faster cleanup of the warehouse site by urging Governor Newsom and the state of California to deploy additional resources to bolster the current cleanup operations.
Okay, that's the first time I've heard any local call out Gavin for doing nothing on this.
Okay, well, he hasn't shown up. Are you going to follow up and call him out when he doesn't give you what you want?
No, of course not.
Then on the county level.
Madam Chair, item 15 is before you.
The Board of Supervisors passed a motion Tuesday to provide financial assistance to small businesses affected by the Lineage fire.
I've spoken to some of these
Sure, we might give you cancer, but we're going to give you a $500 check.
businesses in the area myself and heard firsthand about the thousands of dollars that they have lost.
But nearly 7 weeks later, Boyle Heights residents like Victoria Burden say what they want most is urgency.
The main thing that they want is this food gone. They want this factory gone, and they don't want it to be rebuilt.
Mayor Karen Bass signing an emergency executive order barring city departments from processing Lineage rebuild plans until fire investigators make their findings public.
And she sure likes to make Lineage the boogeyman here, but let's not forget that one of her top advisors is doing PR for Lineage. And also, it's the strangest thing, but it's worth addressing. Why is nobody mentioning the solar panel company that started the fire?
And how about Barbara Ferrer, who should have been taking the lead as the fake doctor in charge of the County Department of Public Health.
Oh, you just need some Tylenol. That'll do it.
Wash your hands often and always before eating and after toileting.
The clock is ticking on the August 14th deadline that Bass set for Lineage to complete its cleanup. Lineage says as of Monday, the company has removed about 80% of the food waste. Adding in a statement, every day hundreds of workers, contractors, and experts are on site working around the clock to accelerate the cleanup, reduce odors, protect public health, and provide direct assistance to impacted residents.
And one of the ways that local government could help speed this up is by giving them more access to more landfills, but county's slow rolling that one.
And a spokesperson for Governor Newsom sending us this statement saying, quote,
Okay, I know this wasn't AI, but if you're looking at the screen right now, did they find a file photo of Gavin Newsom that makes it look like he's smelling something bad?
I think they did.
Very good job.
Governor understands how distressing the situation is for the Boyle Heights community. That's why he moved quickly to declare
He looks like he got a whiff of something stanky.
He's smelling it right there.
A state of emergency to support local efforts in Boyle Heights, where the city of Los Angeles remains the lead on response and recovery. The statement goes on to say, we expect the responsible party to work urgently with local and state agencies to accelerate cleanup and address community concerns here in Boyle Heights.
That's Gavin speak for, this is Karen Bass and Hilda Solis's fault. Leave me alone.
And you know what? He's not exactly wrong, but it's still in his state.
We're live in Boyle Heights tonight. I'm Rachel Aragon, Fox 11 News.
There you go, your latest update in a segment we really wish we didn't have to do all the time, called
You can smell it right here.
All right, that's it for us. But in 2 minutes, Randy, the newest edition of the Accountability Podcast drops.
It premieres. You can see it at JohnnyDon'tLike.com. JohnnyDon'tLike.com. Watch it once, watch it twice. Leave a comment, hit the like button, and share it with your friends. We're trying to make this the biggest episode of the Accountability Podcast yet. A 40-minute uninterrupted interview with Steve Hilton coming up at 3 o'clock.
That's going to do it for us today, but we'll be back tomorrow at noon for another edition of The John Phillips Show.